My fellow Nerdkins, welcome back to another episode of the Jank Tank. Today we've got another exciting gameplay video for you. It is going to be Android 17 and 18 versus AOD. These are both decks that are not strangers to the channel, but it has been a while since I have used the Android deck, and I have a lot of fun with it, and there's a lot of cheeky things that it can do, so I figured I'd bring it back out, and Tommy just wanted to play AOD because he loves the deck, because it's a good deck, and I don't blame him. So he takes the 1 damage from my first swing. I did end up going second. And then I tap 1 to play out an Android 20. He doesn't have a battle card that I can choose his skill negating ability with, but he does draw me a card, so I do throw him out there. Especially since I am familiar with Tommy's build, and I do know he plays the slug, so I want to be able to get as many draws in as I can before he plays out, or gets a chance to play out his slug, I should say. And he's also pretty familiar with playing this against his Android deck. I'm a little more acquainted with his AOD because he's played it more recently, but he does have an idea of what this Android deck does as well. The matchup that we did typically have against the Android deck was his Bojack deck, but since the Boonison has been limited to 1, he can't really play that deck as well, or he's discouraged from playing that deck, and I don't blame him, because without the draw power of Boonison, that deck kind of really falters. I've tried to talk to him about possibly running, just taking the hit and awakening at 3 life, so you can use the unknown parasite unison. Oh, I actually didn't think about this. I'll bring it up to him later, but maybe he should think about running 2 copies of Result of Training, and then he could awaken in Bojack without having the unison. Huh, something to think about. Oh, and with the Bojack awakening, you'd actually be restanding all of your energy. Wow. That's actually, something I'm going to bring up to him, yeah. So off my top 5 search, I find another Android 20. It was actually the only one that I could choose, so that's the one I went with. And yeah, pass turn. Just because I know what his deck kind of wants to do, I'm trying not to play too many battle cards early, because this deck does have a lot of answers to a lot of lower cost cards, which this deck runs. It pretty much relies on its 1-drops, and then a few 3-drops, and then a 5-drop. And that's pretty much what this deck runs behind. So he goes ahead and swings with his leader, and procs the ability to take a life, and then he's going to search the top 5. He chooses an Agents of Destruction Strike Back. And I do apologize about the camera angle cutting off the board slightly. I didn't realize until after the gameplay was recorded, and it was just such a fun match that I wanted to post it anyway. So he goes ahead and awakens here, and there is a slight misplay. He forgot to say if he was going to combo or not before he played the AOD Strikes Back, and that's why I took the life right there. So he plays the first Lord Slug, which causes me to rip a card. And then he's tapping one to play out the Super Namekian. Swings with the Super Namekian for 20k. Go ahead and power of a Super Saiyan to tap down this other slug and draw a card, and I decided to take the damage because this leader, no matter what, goes down to 4 life when it awakens. It can early awaken, but when it early awakens, it takes itself down to 4. And because I tapped down his other slug, he didn't have any more of a response, and now I'm still at 5 life. So I go ahead and throw out my Unison, which is a big crux to, or a huge piece of this deck, which is why I don't really, this deck probably doesn't see a lot of play because Smoke Dragon's a thing, and if you can't keep your Unison on the board in this deck, well, actually there's just Unison hate in general, not just with Smoke Dragon, but if you can't keep your Unison on the board, this deck just really struggles, because the whole idea of this deck is to negate your opponent's skills and steal their cards and put them under your Unison, which will also give you access to Rejuvenate, because this is a Rejuvenate Unison. But unless your opponent's really going after your Unison, you'll be able to use it. But yeah, if your opponent decides to get your Unison off the board as soon as possible, then this deck just has a hard time. You're just essentially just negating skills during your turn. So right here, he petrifies the one Android 20, thinking that it's going to stop me from doing things, which it doesn't. So I go ahead and swing into the Slug for 20k, and then he combos with the Janemba. I play out the 17 and then charge the Android 20 to my Z energy, and now I'm just double checking Petrification to see if it does the same thing as Mafuba and makes the battle card so it's not treated as a card, but it is. So I tap it down with the Android 17's ability to play out the Dual Attacker and swing into a Slug again. Combo with another 17, charge that to my Z energy, and now I'm swinging at his life since his Slug has passed away. He takes that, and then I pass turn. Yeah, so that 17 that's on the board, he has an ability that if you tap 1 energy and tap 1 yellow android, you can play a 3-drop 18 from your hand. And the card that I played with it is an 18 and a 17. So you can actually also do that with the 18 counterpart of the 17 that's on the board. It's actually really nice because it gives you a lot more options, and they do play out after they're comboed with, but they do play in rest mode, so typically you're going to want to do it on your opponent's turn if you can. But it is a once per turn. Technically a limit 1 actually, because limit 1 wasn't an actual keyword yet. And now here he plays this in Shenron to KO my battle card. When that's removed from the field, it switches something to rest mode, so I go ahead and switch his boss card to rest mode. He swings in with the Janemba and I counter it. He goes to counterplay thinking that it will get rid of the token, but it doesn't because it specifies 3 or less, and then I Tyrannical Blow, so I don't have to pitch anything. And he doesn't get to shuffle anything back into his deck. So he swings again, and I counter again. He goes to try and play another Sin, but then realizes that it's only a once per turn, or a limit one. Then he uses the Janemba skill to bring the Sin back to his hand. And then pass his turn. Go ahead and charge a Unison for the beginning of my 4th turn. I am looking in my drop area to see if I have any 1-drop androids that I can play off my leader swing, which I don't. So I just go ahead and steal his Android 13. And I go ahead and swing with my leader. Since I don't have a 1-drop to play from the drop area, I draw a card. And I swing with the Android 17. He combos with the Janemba. I swing with my Unison. He combos with a Bobbity. And I pass turn. Going into Tommy's turn 5. And yes, this when you go a little more archetypal with this build, it doesn't really have a whole lot of barrier removal. Pretty much none at all, actually. It has some interactions with barrier, but that's essentially just the boss card, as well as time magic, being able to get around barrier. So he goes ahead and plays the Sin Shenron, and I go ahead and counterplay with Vegito. He swings with the Sin Shenron and taps down his leader because he didn't want to tap down his energy. And I go ahead and use the blocker on the Vegito. So I use my leader's ability to tap down the android to negate the Sin Shenron skills. Then I +1 to restand it. Then I activate main to tap it down to steal the Sin Shenron, so I don't have to worry about that big 30k triple striker on the next turn, or at least I don't think I do. Then I go ahead and swing with my Unison first. He counters, I counter. And then he takes the damage from that swing. And then I go ahead and swing with Cooler. Combo with my Android 16. Oh wait. What was that Android 16? Or I went to combo, and then he changed his mind and he said he was going to counter. And the counter is the SS4 Vermilion Saiyan's counter attack, which is why it cleared my board, and it gave his leader a boost. We didn't put the dice on there because it wasn't that big of a deal. So I swing with my leader, get the draw, combo with Android 18. And then I tap 1 to play out 16. He is a blocker when he's played or tapped down. Is also a top 5 searcher. And I get an Android 20 off the top 5 search. He does only search for 3 or less androids. So the 17 or the 18 or the 17 and 18 are all 3 drops. And then 16 himself, as well as 20 or 1 drops. And those are the only ones that you can actually search out. And yet, the leader as well as the Android 16 only search out mono yellow cards. So I did consider running the Cell Super Combo because it was an Android Super Combo, but since it doesn't draw as well as not being a mono colored, he doesn't. He's not searchable, which is unfortunate. But he counterplays my riposte when I try and counterattack. And right there, I was accidentally putting all those cards into my warp instead of my drop. And then he pushes with Mira. I Sparking Negate, and he scoops because he didn't have any defense. And that's the game. I will be posting a deck profile of the winning deck as per usual. Until then, go ahead and smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. If there's any questions that you have, leave them down below. Any comments are always welcome. Thank you very much, and stay nerdy.